Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. So right now we're going to talk about Hoskinson, and he actually predicts that Cardano will replace Bitcoin as number one by the end of the 2020s. Now, there's some optimistic stuff on here, and then there's some other stuff that I don't agree with on. The first thing I don't agree with Charles on is number one by the end of the 2020s. We're talking about 2028, 2029, 2030. I personally don't think Bitcoin will be number one by then. I think other things like Ethereum, maybe XRP, maybe VeChain, maybe other cryptocurrencies will have actually surpassed it based on utility by the end of the 2020s, because 10 years is a very long time. I actually think Ethereum will be the first thing to actually hop Bitcoin. Probably in like 3-4 years, once Ethereum actually gets 2.0 on board, it gets the scaling and it gets more projects on 2.0. There are definitely other projects besides Ethereum that could actually hop Bitcoin before the end of the 2020s, which Charles said Cardano would actually hop Bitcoin, but I think Ethereum is the best candidate right now because of the number of dApps on it and the fact that Ethereum is the primary blockchain right now that all the decentralized finance apps are actually built on. In fact, 9 of the top 10 DeFi apps are on Ethereum. The only one that's not is Lightning, and that's kind of like the Bitcoin gateway slash fast transaction thing for Bitcoin. So I think Cardano could jump Bitcoin by the end of the 2020s, assuming they release everything. But it won't be number one, even if it jumps Bitcoin. But that's still great growth for Cardano. So he actually said this in an AMA. And the other thing I didn't really like this about is he did not commit himself to a specific metric. Now, if you didn't commit yourself to a specific year, that's fine. 10 years is a very long time. But you got to say like how you're going to overtake Bitcoin. Otherwise, your statement doesn't really mean anything. So he doesn't tell you what metric. He just says like, we're going to overtake Bitcoin. So what do you mean when you say you're going to overtake Bitcoin? He didn't specify market capitalization, number of users, transaction volume, etc. I mean, he could have just meant like, oh, I feel it, but I don't really care if you feel it. You have to have a specific metric in which you claim to actually overtake Bitcoin. That metric for me is market capitalization right now, because as an investor, that's honestly what I care about. He does want to achieve 1 billion users by the end of the 2020s. And to do that, he's actually had a collaboration with McCann, which is also the advertising company that represents Microsoft and LinkedIn. There was a story about that I covered a couple of months back. He's actually going to do a lot of commercials, and he wants to make a truly social operating system. So kind of like, I guess, Facebook on blockchain. Cardano is trying to go into logistics management right now, which is competing with VeChain. But the thing is, VeChain actually has enterprise customers right now that are actually operating on its blockchain, and Cardano doesn't yet because it hasn't launched Shelly and Goguan yet. So it's a little behind there, but it could actually take over part of the market. The logistics market is very large, and since VeChain mainly operates in Asia, Cardano could stake a pretty decent claim in North America. This is actually like, he's actually talking in a way where he's going to renew the contract at the end of next year. And if he keeps talking that way, I'm going to assume that Charles and IOHK will be part of the project past 2020, which is when his current contract actually expires with Cardano. So it looks like according to this interview, it looks like he's planning to stay on for many more years. He thinks the 3 things that are most crucial are commercialization, incentives, and technology. The technology is not as impressive now as it was back in 2017, 2018, which was supposed to be the original release of Shelly. Like 256 transactions per second on a large decentralized scale would be very impressive in 2018. In 2020, there are other cryptos that can do more than 256, and that are actually decentralized in terms of nodes or validators. And decentralization really depends on what you mean by like how much decentralized do you want to be. If it's 100 parties, is it decentralized? If it's 1,000 parties, is it decentralized? If it's 5,000 parties, is it decentralized? It's stuff like that that really kind of, you have to define what decentralized means. But there are many cryptos that have governance models that are partly or truly decentralized, and that can actually go over 256 transactions per second. However, Cardano's architecture basically says as there are more users that come on, there can be a lot more transactions per second, and that can scale very, very well into the future. So it has that advantage. However, I don't really know if it works yet because their network hasn't been launched. So I'm just hoping that it actually works. So he's still thankful to Bitcoin, and he says Bitcoin will always be worth something, and he sees Bitcoin as a gateway to actually introduce people to Cardano. So obviously his AMA session was very optimistic, like it always is. And the thing is, like, with the staking pools actually working out better than he thought, than people thought, that does give me some confidence. However, I don't know if Shelly is actually going to come in Q1, which means another delay. The thing is, like, I really don't like all these delays. I mean, it's been delayed for like a year or two already. So any further delay, like each one, does hamper the confidence of investors in Cardano. And yes, regardless of what you want to think, Cardano is an investment for people who actually bought the coin. Many people bought the coin expecting a return on investment sometime along the line. And when you actually have a publicly investable asset, it is a business. It's no longer just a research project. So missing deadlines does actually look pretty bad when you're talking about a business. However, if they can turn this around next year and Cardano can be a beast in 2020, like Hodgkinson says, then all will actually have been worth it for waiting. For me, I am still waiting for the next Cardano spike to actually sell my coins. I actually think if you believe in Cardano, right now is probably the best time to buy in. I mean, I guess if you're buying in with fiat, you could just wait, and you think Bitcoin's going to take a dive, then you could wait a while. But in terms of Bitcoin ratio right now, I think this is actually a pretty good time to buy in with Cardano if you actually believe in the project. So I'm actually going to hold on to my coins. I don't know if I'm really going to buy any more coins because I already have a couple $100 in this project, and I don't feel confident enough because of the constant delays to actually put more into it right now. But if you want to splurge a little bit of money into it, this is probably a decent time to buy because the price has been depressed very, very low over the last few years. This is not financial advice. This is just my own opinion. And what I'm doing with my Cardano is I'm just kind of keeping it right now. I'm not buying any more because I already have a bag. And I'm not selling right now because the price is really low. Because I think there is still a pretty good chance that Shelly and Gogwan actually do get released next year and the price does balloon, especially if they get released when Bitcoin is hitting that bull run. Hopefully it'll be by the end of Q1, but by the looks of it right now, it'll probably be more in Q2 at this point. So that is the news for today. There's some optimism to be had, but you need to keep close track of this project on their release dates. So that is the news for today. Let me know what you think, like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.